Hello, my name is Lauren Ferrer. I'm number 26. I go to Calvary Christian Academy and I'm primarily interested in stage management. The following are examples of my experience.
The first production I completed as stage manager was Peter and the Starcatcher. The first task I completed was the cast rehearsal schedule. In this schedule, I collaborated with the director of our production to create a detailed schedule that we could send out to all cast members where they could find when they were called, what we were doing in that specific rehearsal, and if they had any conflicts, we would make sure to weave those in so that we were the most efficient with our time. Next, we move on to the production crew rehearsal. In this rehearsal schedule, I collaborated with our technical director and we created a schedule for each crew. This schedule was more for when they needed to be here and any deadlines they might have, such as our load-in days or whenever we needed our props, costumes, or any stuff like that finished, as well as our tech week outlines and when we needed who and just when they needed to be here. Next is our French scene breakdown. This is a sheet that I created that outlines each actor, the character they plays, and which scenes they're in, and they're marked. In this particular show, many actors would take on roles that were different than their main character, so this was really important for other crews such as mics and costumes, so that they would know which particular actor is on stage, as well as what role they are playing in that scene. Next is the cast contact sheet. This sheet was built immediately after the cast list was sent out, and we built this sheet so that any director or assistant stage manager or crew chief could contact any cast member for whatever they needed, whether an actor wasn't here, they were absent, we didn't know where they were, or if we just had any questions for them. Next is the rehearsal sign-in sheet. This sign-in sheet was printed and posted on our call board, and every time an actor came into rehearsal, they had to sign in, and that was our way of making sure that they were here, and if they did not sign in, they were going to be counted as absent. And then all of these sign-ins were then transferred into our cast attendance sheet. This attendance sheet outlined when the actors were here, whether they were present, absent, late, whether they had a conflict, absent excused, or if a rehearsal was canceled. In our productions, if an actor is absent more than 3 times, they are removed from the show. So this was a way for me to keep track of when they were here and if they were ever missing, and if they had an excuse for missing or if they did not have an excuse. Every rehearsal, I filled out a rehearsal report along with my assistant stage manager. On the left is a template, and on the right is an example of a filled out rehearsal report. In these rehearsal reports, we included schedules of what we needed to complete in that particular rehearsal, what we did complete in that rehearsal, and any notes we may have for any production crew or the cast. In the first general box, you can see all the notes we have for our actors, or anything we needed to communicate with them in the coming rehearsal. That would be written down in that box. And as you move below, you will see notes for our specific crews, such as makeup, set, lighting, sound, and all the notes we have for them. Every week we would have a production meeting. In these meetings, it was a time for I, the stage manager, to collaborate with all the production crew chiefs, and where they could come and share their progress. I could check on their progress, as well as they could ask me any questions they may have for anything that is unclear or anything that they need to complete. This is a way of us all staying updated, and so that everyone was well informed throughout the entire process. Next is the blocking script. I included 3 examples from 3 different scenes. During rehearsals, I would take down everyone's blocking so that if anyone missed rehearsal, they could come the next day and get blocking from my script so that everyone was constantly up to date and so that we were the most efficient with our time, so no time was wasted filling someone in. And then my script was also used if anyone had any confusion from the day before, if they didn't fully understand a piece of blocking, they could come to me and I had it all written down and I could explain it to them once again so that we're the most efficient with our time in rehearsal. Then, once we moved to Tech Week, as we were doing our Q to Q, I would build my rough Q book. And in this cue book, I would just write down as we programmed, and wherever I thought I needed to call them, nothing was really finalized, but this is where I was building my cue book. And then, once everything was finalized, I could create my final cue book. In this book, I had everything perfectly detailed. I had run these scenes many times, so I knew when I needed to call these cues and when was the right time to call the cues. I also color-coded each cue so that when I was going through my book, everything was clear to me so that there was no confusion and so that nothing was unclear. I did the lighting cues in yellow, the sound in pink, and the spot cues in blue. I again included 3 examples from 3 different scenes in the production. Next is my cue sheet. I created a cue sheet outlining all the cues in the show. This was used by me as well as the sound crew, as well as the lighting people, just to make sure everything was in one place and so that everyone could come here and look at what they needed to call. In this production, a total of 347 cues were called. The next production is a production I worked on as assistant stage manager, The Miracle Worker. I included a rehearsal report from this show. In this rehearsal report, I created this along with our stage manager. In this particular rehearsal, we were split. Half of the cast was rehearsing in one room while the other was in another, and I was leading one rehearsal while the stage manager and the director were leading another. So this was a great way for us to collaborate on one document and write down what we had done in each rehearsal. Next is the preset list. This particular production was a black box show, so I was in charge of the presets. I had to make sure nothing could be seen by the audience as they were coming in, as well as making sure everything was in the right place on stage or backstage. I also included 3 examples of my blocking script. As you can see, there's blocking all in the margins of everyone's blocking. Once again, so that if there was any confusion or if anyone missed, we had a few backup scripts with correct blocking. As well as I was operating mics for this production, so all those highlighted portions were my mic cues that I had to call. The final production is Bright Star, which was supposed to be our spring musical last year, but it was cut short due to COVID-19. But we did start the process, so I do have examples to show of that. This is a rehearsal report. We were still pretty early in the process, so we were really focused on music. So as you can see, most of the notes are the music we completed and the music we still need to do. At the bottom, there are also some questions and answers and updates for the props crew, as that is one of the first crews that begins working on their process. So they had a few questions that we were able to answer through this report. Lastly, I included our cast schedule, which included all of our goals for each rehearsal, as well as outlining who needed to be called, who was not going to be here, the conflicts, as well as the most important rehearsals, such as our tech weeks, load-in days, and the days we would have our full band,